everybody. Welcome back to the ATSV 2021 second edition of this year for our virtual series. I'd like to invite Marc Sidler. He's the Chief Marketing Director from Testex, welcoming him back to the stage. Marc has been with us at ATS since the very inception of our trade show, so it's always a pleasure to have him on every year and share what's going on with OEKO-TEX and Testex and in the world of sustainability. Today, Marc will be talking about reducing the carbon and water footprint throughout the supply chain with OEKO-TEX, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I'd just like to remind everybody that we do have a Q&A at the end of Marc's presentation. So if anybody has any questions, please post them in the Q&A or chat function here on Zoom. For our Facebook Live viewers, if you have any questions, please post them there and they will be fed to us at the end of Marc's presentation. Marc, it's good to see you again.
Lovely, thanks for the nice welcome. And it's good to go. I'm good to start. Let's share my screen. There we go. I'm saying I'm good and set. You can see that, I assume. Lovely. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are joining from, and especially ni hao to my friends at CCPIT, where I assume, or actually where I know exactly, it's midnight. So if you're joining, big welcome to you. We thank Apparel Textile Sourcing for the invitation and the opportunity to hold a presentation today about the very, very important topic and subject, we should be all very concerned about. Like Jason said, we have started at the very beginning already 5 years ago. So also big thanks to them to keeping us in the loop. And we are very honored to always be part of the virtual part now, of course, but of course, Stella and myself, who is also joining. Certainly we're gonna love to see you again in real life and not only virtual, but that's the way it is at the moment. So hope that everyone is good and the family is healthy. And then we all one day get out of this very special time and moments. So I want to show today really what is possible to achieve the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, how we can reduce the carbon and water footprint, and what are the tools, OEKO-TEX and Testex, we have as a solution for you. A little bit, make an introduction on my last year presentation. Maybe some of you have joined. I also showed kind of an LCA pilot where we talk about life cycle with Khalida we have done, and also Linda, she did one this February for the Canadian Apparel Federation. So hi to Bob Kirke, and it's always a pleasure to meet him as well. So we just step by step further develop ourselves. We have a lot of innovation ongoing, and especially when we took Quantis on board, they were a key partner to us for the life cycle topic, and especially, of course, for carbon and water footprint. We really believe that we have an important tool and we can make an impact, at least for the textile industry. But to give also so kind of figure or hot news, maybe some of you have joined yesterday the Apple conference where they announced the new Apple iPhone and so on. And just to give you a connection in numbers. So I tried to read them now, the numbers, because they are very long numbers. Apple said that in 2030, they're gonna be 100% carbon neutral. And to give you now on the path to 2030, in 2019, they reduced their metric tons of CO2 equivalent down to 22.6 million, excuse me. They reduced actually by about 4.3 million metric tons. Now, what does 4.3 million or 22.6 million mean in comparison to the textile industry? It's an incredible number of 175 times less. So it means Apple's carbon footprint is 175 times less. Actually, this was just by accident. It's like we are 175 years old, Testex this year, but this just came up afterwards. I did the mathematics. And so this is the connection. So what I want to say here, that the textile industry, we are at the moment at 4 billion metric tons. This is also a number I reported before to you guys. And this was in 2018 reported. And this is at the moment, or let's say in 2018, it was equal with the European Union CO2 equivalent impact. That means whole European Union and the textile industry have exactly the same impact. So you can see how tremendous or how good it would be when we take our chances to reduce just a little, because the potential is huge. Our industry has huge potential to really lower the global warming and actually also the carbon footprint, where there is a connection in. I mean, some of you always make a joke if I'm on stage, but this time I don't see you, so I don't make the joke. But now it's Biden, it's the president of the US, and I think the US is still part of the agreement which was made back in Paris several years ago. So what I have on my agenda for the next 30 minutes is really what are the tools. You can see the agenda on the very right. I don't going to read it down the whole way, but it's really about what is the challenge today, what are the tools we have with STEP and we have Made in Green. So also on the product we made in green, how you could get involved. I mean, we are at the moment in a trial or in a phase of a pilot to run it out with the CO2 and the water footprint on STEP. So we are doing that right now, and we drive to go live with this tool by next year for STEP for the factories, not for the product Made in Green yet. I also want to talk a little bit about the methodology and also give you some insights how the prototype looks like. And at the very end, like Jason said, we have some time to answer your question. Whenever is a question about OEKO-TEX, very specific about the standard 100 or Made in Green, also Stella I will also show you the contact details of my colleague in Canada. She's situated in Vancouver, that you can also follow. So today I talk very much about this scientific stuff, about water and carbon footprint. But to start with, I was talking about this 175 times less than or more than Apple has for their whole products and shops and everything. And so we just turned, actually this year in 2021, we turned 175 years. And I want to show you quickly our milestone, what the company is today. So it's So hopefully my microphone is up again. So this was a quick 1:30 introduction about our milestones. We are certainly very grateful for everyone who joined on our pause, and we are open for everyone who want to join for our next 25 years. 175 years, of course, I made the analogy to the CO2 impact of textile versus Apple, but also in other words, we are a lot of things you can do with numbers, but I think it's always good to connect it with things you can remember. So SDGs, every one of you has seen them, I assume. They are the 17 SDG goals the United Nations has declared in 2015. And it's on the agenda, I think, of every country and government, and actually also on most multinational companies. What does it mean? What can we do? And how can we lower the impact for our next generations? We as OEKO-TEX and Testex, we believe they are the ones we have impact in. So it's number 3, it's number 6, 10, and so on. Especially, of course, we believe that number 12, responsible consumption, on the way right, the biggest one we have for the production for textile garment, the biggest impact. I also try to bring this in connection with our portfolio. I think some of you have seen that slide before, but without the SDGs, because today we at OEKO-TEX, we not only provide you with standard 100, which is a testing certification system for, let's say, for end products for the garment, but actually it's also for already the components, like some of you might know, because we are not only testing at the very end, we also test every component. So it's a modular system, so we don't want to have double testing. So it's like summing up of certification, so that at the end the final garment is certified. But we also start with input control already. When we talk about chemistry, there's a lot of chemistry involved in the textile business, especially in the dyeing. Of course, there are glues and so on, there are colors. We want to look fashionable, so chemistry is involved quite a lot. So we already want to control the input. But today, especially focusing on the topic of CO2 and water footprint, or carbon and water footprint, we have a lot of options to reduce the impact in steps. So it's in the factory. That's where the emission really is severe. But of course, don't forget, and also in a later slide, I'm going to show you, even during the use time, when you wash, for instance, your garment, there's CO2 emission, there's water, water involved, clean fresh water, and also the gray water at the very end of the process. So my professor for sustainability always said the biggest achievement is if you wear the textile as long as possible, because then by the lifetime the emission is going down. So just remember, lifetime is crucial. So a good garment, or a good quality garment which you can last longer, also has a direct impact on CO2 and water. These are the answers, or like the short introduction of the SDGs in the wordings, explained very shortly as a statement of OEKO-TEX. Also, presentation will be lively recorded. Also, I will hand it as a PDF to my colleagues, so we don't need to read or go one by one through, but just to remember again, here number 12, very important to us, because we really believe that on one side we show transparency with the supply chain, but then on the other side also we want to educate from end consumers, but also the B2B partners, how they can make an impact to really achieve, let's say, the common goals of SDGs together. And on the negative part, we are at the moment far away from achieving the goals were defined by the SDGs. So this is my next slide. maybe some of you have seen it, the IPCC report, which was published at the beginning of August about the global warming simulated, and we are apparently ahead. So it's alarming. Some people call it it's not a quarter to 12. I don't know if this saying works in English or in Canada as well, but at least works in German. I think everyone knows what I mean. So it's a little bit after 12. So we really have to speed up and look for solutions, not only talk, we have to act. Global warming is severe, and the CO2 emission has a clear connection to it. To bring it a little bit more lively to you, I put in an animation here. Actually, it's a video to YouTube. It's from NASA. It's the climate time machine, and you can really look now at the simulation. What does it mean with the global warming in relation to CO2? So things getting hotter, and soon we pass the millennium, and it's getting really hot. So that's where we end in 2020. And so I'm gonna stop here. Let me do that. There we go. To bring you a little bit more figures based on this animation we had on NASA, also Quantis, so our partner for this LCA topic, the apparel sector worldwide has been also growing the last year, so this even makes things more severe. So we assume that about 20% has grown the last 3 years, and the number I told you before, the 8% of the total greenhouse gas emission is 8% of the whole apparel worldwide, and this is, for instance, equivalent, like I said, with the whole emission of the European Union. All the countries in Europe together have the same greenhouse gas emission like our beloved industry. So, of course, if no one, I mean, of course, Apple is reducing now, but 175 times less than the textile industry to remember. So even if they reduce a lot and the textile industry is growing, it doesn't look very good for the world. So we need to act. So at the moment, this is the graphic. We are not on the track. Actually, we're not on track to keep it to 1.5 degrees of the global warming. We are at the moment, it looks more like on the current pace we have, we're gonna end up in 2.1 billion tons. To remember, I said at the very beginning, 4 billion, that's where we are right now. So actually, we should lower it by 4 times more, and now we would end up in 2030 by about half of what we should end in. So we have a problem. And on the same time, so this is on the left side, it's the carbon footprint. On the right side, we talk about water. So on the same time, more water has been used, 21% more. So carbon seems we are on the right way, right direction, I would say, but much too slow. So we would be double the speed, and water we are even increasing. So it really means this study, actually it's from McKinsey, that we are not getting where we should. And so there is really an impact and a risk that the textile industry is one of the biggest polluters of our world. So that was the negative story, but what are now the solutions? To give you questions, because now I don't see anyone to raise the hand, but you can also ask this question yourself. What does your organization already do right now to have impact on carbon and water footprint? Are you monitoring it? Are you thinking about it? This is just a question for yourself. You can certainly share in the chat box if you want to share with everyone, but really ask that yourself, and also what function you have in your organization, what is the impact you can have. So now to OEKO-TEX. This is our mission on the very left. We really want to enable consumers, but now we talk about the companies to make responsible decisions to protect our planet. And along the supply chain, I showed you a few slides before. They are severe impacts, and I also show you where are the biggest ones. We can lower the impact a little, and it will have already quite a tremendous number will be followed. So I will not follow up that slide more in details. This is maybe something for the end. If you have questions, you want to better understand what does it mean, how this product work together, and we still have time, we can spend a little bit more time here. So at the end, the whole supply chain is concerned, and we really focus now on the environmental part and the responsibility of the biggest team players. To make it short, OEKO-TEX is not only Testex, there are 18 different independent institutes. We are one of them, also our daughter company, OTI, the Austrian one, maybe you have seen on the video. We were the founding member actually of the OEKO-TEX. That time it was already 1992. It was founded, and we are today in more than 70 countries, and we are official representative in Canada. That's why I'm talking to you today. So, and today we work with more than 14,000 companies around the globe. So now step in the middle about production. That's where the impact is. We have the STEP certification, which is really aims for transparency, sustainability in the textile and in the leather production. Our certification program, on the left, you see the 6 modules we are looking into. It's an audit system where we have an online assessment, but we will also check what is going on in the factory, and you will get a tremendous report of details of, for instance, of CO2. And but of course also about social and health and safety aspects. At the moment, there are a little bit more than 650 factories are certified with STEP, and all this data, which is of value, of course, for us, but of course also for, let's say, for the brands who are purchasing from these factories, together with the data we have from Quantis. I showed 1 year ago, or Linda showed this spring to the Canadian Apparel Federation. This data we have with STEP, and the data which is also, for instance, on a field for growing cotton, we can sum it up, and we really get important data where we can make things measurable. Okay, so with STEP, to make it short, of course, we talk about environment, but we also talk about people. So it's maybe some of you have heard about the triple bottom line. That's where we talk about the social part. So the people, sometimes I also call the 3 Ps. So we have the people, and we have the planet for the environment, and we have the profit, because sustainability, the definition, what I learned, it only works if you can also make profit out of it. And sustainability is also a business, not for us. It's, of course, it's our core competence, but also for you. And what I learned from one of our customers, this was also published. It's Kalida, a well-known Swiss brand, or actually at least in Europe, but you also can get it on Amazon. They even said, the board said, sustainability pays off now. So even in these difficult times, most companies and countries, and we are all they are actually growing. They are growing because they have invested in the right direction, and people are driving and looking for. So at the end, with our tool is really to provide you a goal to lower your carbon and water footprint. So we are committed at the end to the science-based targets. With this tool, we can help to decarbonize, one of another term, and also to reduce the water reduction based on UN fashion industry for Charter for Climate Action. It's called. It's this logo on the very on the top. So an initiative has set clear commitments to meet actually Paris climate change agreement, so to move to net zero by 2050. But even as a lot of countries are using it, and you also see it here by 2030, to already use by 30%, because it's already 12:15, as I said before. The climate warming is severe, so we already have now to act to achieve the 2050, but also 2030 goals. Today, about 150 companies have signed, let's say fashion companies from the fashion industry have signed this charter. You can also Google it up, Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action. It's a weird called link, UNFCCC, that's international.com. And but there you can also see the companies which have signed up. Now, on the other side, we're talking about STEP, and we go a little bit more in details, market demands. So why should we do that? I made this statement just 3 slides ago, to like profit. So why should we invest? Because it's at the end, it's a market demand. From researches we have done, or from studies in 2017, actually, with a Canadian lady, which did that globally in 10 industry countries. That also showed the results, I think, roughly 2 or 3 years ago, back that time in Toronto on stage. And my generation is really asking for sustainability. The baby boomers, they didn't, and now my generation, we are, and actually my generation Y is also taking up the most important segment for consumers. So we need to listen to them. If everyone wants to have the results from the study we have done in 2017 in 10 industry countries, it was also US and Canada certainly were involved, but also China and India. Quite interesting study. Please also put in the chat box or ask Stella to send you the sum up or the summary of that study. But of course, product and consumer safety, it's basically, it's there we should not even talk about anymore. People want to buy clothes which are safe from them. I'm a father from a 18 months daughter, and I just assume when I shop something, of course I look for my own labels or certification, but when I look for product, I assume the product is safe. But still, of course, there's a lot of chemistry, what I said, is involved, and it has an impact on product safety. But on the other side, this whole transparency, traceability thing is really taking up with high speed. And that's, let's say, it's the market demand, but not only for our industry, I think more or less for every industry we could think of. Just to give you a number, with Made in Green, which is the label, actually it's a combination of standard 100 tested for harmful substance and produced in a STEP factory. This is just the label at the end, and there are at the moment more than 5,800 labels are in the market, and every year we double our amount. So also there we see with a lot of brands in Europe and US and Asia, they're really pushing for it. If it's now the market demand or it's the B2B push, I think every one of you knows a little better than I do, because I'm at the very end in the certification business, but my feeling really is it's actually from both sides. Good. So at the end, you want a sustainable choice. And this is also, so we have now the intermediate step with STEP, where we talk about carbon and water, but of course, in the longer run, and this is our perspective, we want to give the people, in addition to what you see on my screen now, you see the supply chain. This we already do for several years. I think we have launched Made in Green before the first show of this format has been on the market in Canada. I think we started in 2014 or 2015 with Made in Green. That time already was possible to show the supply chain. It was possible to show photos of the product, to trace it with QR code and everything on. So we want to go one step further. And I can't name now a date, But first we do with the step. We want to make sure that CO2 and the water impact you have for the factory, you can also put it down on the product. So because at the end, we want to ensure a consumer understands, for instance, the sweater, the green sweater you see on the photo, how much water has been used to produce this sweater. A lot of data and a lot of factories are involved in the whole supply chain. So that's where we are working on. And to sum it up, of course we talk about LCA, life cycle assessment, and it's not only about the raw material where we start on the top part of the circle, but we also talk about manufacturing, of course, but also end of life or actually recycling, because sometimes what I learned from my professor, it's not always the best option to recycle it. Sometimes it's also the best option to burn it. That might sound a bit weird for some of you, but of course it also very much depends how you burn, for instance, the garment. I certainly always aim for recycling, but on the carbon footprint and the water footprint, it could have also negative effect, because all the transportation after the recycling has been involved. It could be negative impact. Sometimes it's better to burn something than to recycle it. But this is just a short statement. Don't take it out of scope. But that's what LCA does. We look exactly into the numbers. So, and the use phase, that's also something I want to quickly talk about. The use phase, the water who has been used while washing your garment has an impact, has actually quite a big impact. And now it depends. You maybe you wash cold or you wash hot, you wash 30 or 40 or 50 degrees. But also the mixture of your electricity consumption, is it from green renewable energy, or is it from coal, like a lot of energy is, for instance, still today in Europe, but we also have power plants, of course. So also the use phase has a huge impact. So whenever you wash it, you also create a little bit more of carbon footprint, and certainly also the water, the washing machine makes sense. So it's the whole life cycle of a product. So to go a little bit into more details, what we could do now with this tool and why we have developed it. So the STEP program, where we are now in this pilot phase, how I announced it, we have asked several leading companies to be part of it, and for this pilot to put in data to really see how it works, and if we get at the end sufficient results that we can really at the end have report and define reduction measures for customers at the very end, actually for you, for the supply chain. So I give you now a quick look. So of course, we start with the material. So for instance, you want to know how much material, so the input amount, of course, is very important. It's not just at the end how many metric tons CO2 you produce. You want to also put it down at the very end. We want to know for the product. So you want to put it into a connection with the material. In the number 2, inventory, we add electricity, power in kilowatt per hours. So for the process. Number 3, inventory number 2, actually up here, we talk about water figures we use for the process in the factory, only the factory, because now we are in the factory. Yeah? And then, of course, also we have transportation. I think on a later slide, I show you transportation is important, but it's maybe not so important like other parts, because transportation has only small impact on life cycle. And then at the very end, we make a summary that you have a summary result to see what is the impact. Here, number 5, excuse me, we are in the summary part where at the end you can see what material input, how much is the tons of CO2 emissions, or also for the, so this is the CO2, and all otherwise also for the water, which I don't show you right now. So we have the yearly production of your factory, carbon footprint, or then also put it down to 1 kilogram of material output. It's, for instance, 13.5 kilogram, and it's a mix of different facility operations in your factory. So we have these involved. And if, of course, this here is just a dummy company. Sorry, this is German, means sample factory, and it's a factory at the moment located in Austria. Good. So this is basically the data which is accelerated, and of course, this is data which is combined also between the Waldeby database of quantities. Now, what does it mean? And actually, to give you a little bit of a glimpse for the future. So we were talking about the factory, going back per kilogram material. Okay, interesting. I believe very interesting for the factory part, but going really into the details for the product, where we talk with Made in Green, certainly it's interesting to see. Okay, my man's daywear posh bamboo shirt has 4.5 kilograms CO2 equivalent and has 700 liters of water has been used. This is where we're aiming to. So at the end of our journey, you know, we are 175 years old. Our journey hopefully is much longer. So this is where we wanna go through. I believe this is the holy grail of the supply chain for the textile industry, to really be able to say for every product, for every combination you're gonna do or you're gonna have in your production, that at the end you're able, if it's now a shirt, it's a loungewear pant. A lot of us are wearing now in home offices, I assume, maybe on top of a shirt, but underneath loungewear pant, or actually if it's just daywear, it doesn't matter. We want to know the figures underneath. On one side, of course, this is just CO2 and water footprint. They are just 2 parameters. There are many more, but somewhere you have to start because it's incredibly complicated. So you need to have the best partners and a lot of data. So you need to bring it down to a logic people can understand. So this one I'm gonna jump. And I would really give you the opportunity, because I already overtook a little bit, 5 minutes. So I really want to give you the chance to answer questions. At the end, just maybe to sum this slide a bit up, it's let's say you are a B2B partner, you are a brand, or let's say, or maybe also in retail, it doesn't matter. You purchase from making up facilities. And your making up facilities are connected to tier 2, tier 3, to knitting facilities, to dyeing and finishing, and so on. And you want to modulate your supply chain. And let's say if you purchase from making up company 1 and you want to check the same product from another making up company, you want to know, one, of course, is the comparison of price, but you want to also show what is the impact on CO2 and water, for instance. So you can actually adjust in this tool, and that's where we are heading to. So it's a prototype. We are heading to there quite fast. You want to really know what is the impact if you change the supply chain. If you change one partner, maybe you just want to change the knitting factory, but maybe you want to keep the making up company and use another dyeing house. So this is the way how you can make assumption and can do a proper benchmarking. So now I want to come to questions and answers. I want to quickly check the Q&A box, and please follow us on LinkedIn and also on WeChat for our colleagues in China and wherever they are, the WeChat crew. And especially important is, of course, Stella. Here's her contact to follow up with her if you have more question about OEKO-TEX environment. I say many, many thanks. And now I try to open up the Q&A box and see what has been asked. So many thanks.
Okay. We did have a question from Kim, wanted to see if they could get the summary.
Study?
Yes, into that email. So
absolutely, no problem. We will send to him right away.
perfect. Looks like I'm getting from Kevin. No questions on the Facebook. No questions. Anybody else have any questions for Marc? Any of our viewers here? Marc, I'm curious as far as you mentioned how sustainability and especially this particular topic is in the forefront. I mean, it has been talked about more frequently and things are now starting to be done about it, right? And you talked about these deadlines of the 2030s and 2050s. With the advancement in technology and the increased popularity, I guess the advocacy for these initiatives, do you think those deadlines are reachable in your opinion from what you're seeing? Or do you think it's going to take a lot more effort and innovation in the short term?
You know, it's a fantastic question, but I think one really hard to answer, especially for my position. I think if we have tools to make an impact now, but at the very end, there are a lot of small brands around the globe. They make things tremendously great now. There are big brands that make an impact. I mean, for instance, if let's say, not to name any customers or so, no one doesn't matter actually at the end. If a Nike, Adidas, Zara, or H&M, if they reduce 20%, this has a big impact. But the innovation part, which is very often done in small companies because they're agile enough to anticipate and change something, and I think this is important. And I just believe we are not on a good track at the moment right now, but I think we can still achieve it if everyone wants. And I also understand that sustainability is a business, because that's what my professor made very clearly. If you can't earn money out of it, it will fail. So just keep in mind, you need to make profit out of it. Otherwise you can't invest.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Marc. All right. Well, our next session, that does it for our Q&A. We don't have any other questions. Our next session, Perspectives on Social Compliance, Buyer, Manufacturer, and Program Viewpoints, will be starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, I encourage everyone to check out the 100 plus exhibitors we have at the show. Make sure to head back inside the virtual landing page by clicking the link I posted in the chat. If you haven't logged on already, of course. In there, you'll find the show office. You can do some matchmaking. It's a live hangout where it's great for networking, connect with our suppliers, and meet the attendees. Our speakers as well, and our panelists will be in and out of that office. If there's anybody looking for resources or needs any help from the ATS staff, somebody will be in there to help you as well. Also be sure to check out our 3 exhibition rooms. Room 3 featuring our suppliers from China, Room 2 featuring our suppliers from India, and Room 1 featuring our suppliers from the United States, Canada, Portugal, Mongolia, Bangladesh, and Brazil. Also posted in the chat, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, the ATS YouTube channel, if you'd like to watch Marc's presentation or any of the other presentations from the seminar series. Just make sure to subscribe and you will get notifications on when those are posted. Generally about a week after the show is when those things are uploaded. So Stella, it's good to see you too. Marc, welcome back. I look forward to seeing you. I know I've been saying this for a couple of years now, but I look forward to seeing you guys in person eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shortly. So, but it's good to see you. Take care.
Take care. Thank you very much for having me, and good night to all the colleagues in China, and have a great matchmaking virtual show, at least. If it's virtual, at least virtual, better than nothing. And yes, let's work on our sustainability path. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. See you, Marc.